Hi everyone. It's chilly. I got my little hand warmers on. What's the temperature today? Oh, it's a balmy 17 today. That's before the wind. Okay, let's do a little camera check. We're good to go. See if I can shut off that light. Here we go. Okay, so we have a few minutes before we start. People want to gather their supplies. You just need a little bit of fabric for your applique, steamer seam, 2, marking pen, pattern. I use my candle wicking foot. And they also make one called the Applique Open Toe, which is plastic. I prefer the metal. Oh, thanks, Christine. So hi, Persis. Hi, Christine. How you guys doing? I'm going to set my foot there so I don't lose it. I didn't put the link in the in today's video, but I'll do that later. But the link to download this is on Miss Loreens Schoolhouse Facebook on yesterday's post, and I believe I put it on today's post as well. Here's our little guy. Isn't he cute? Something nice and simple, easy, but cute. So Persis says, perfect day for a snowman. Yeah, maybe. You mean the snowman already made? Is that what you mean, Persis? Because I can see the wind is blowing here a bit, so. And it's 17 before the wind. So you build a snowman, Persis, and I'll look out my window at it. You want to make sure your iron's plugged in and ready. What else we got? We're going to sew. We're going to sew a bit on these back pieces. So I have my white thread in. I have my top stitch needle in, and I can sew with my top stitch needle. That's fine. Give you a little close up. I did big quilting because we don't need to get carried away with the quilting. You could quilt more if you want. This fabric has, I think it has snowflakes on it. You can't see them very much. Oh, Persis, you're sewing today? Good for you. Christine, how about you? You're sewing today? This is an easy one. I thought about getting out my circular foot, but we'll do that another day. So make sure you round up. If you don't have all your sewing machine feet together, round them all up because we'll be working with different feet. If you have them, that's great. And if you don't, it kind of shows you what you might want or you might not want. So need a couple pins. A couple pins will do it. So we just got a couple minutes. Oh, Christine, you're sewing too? Yeah, Christine, you always get done before I do. Because I bet you're already traced out. So you want to make a note on your pattern, and I'll say this again in a little bit. You might want to make a note on your pattern that we're not cutting out this circle with the fabric. You can cut out the circle, for the circle, and I would cut it out with like a cereal box or something. Or I found, and just kind of look at how old it is. I found my Pyrex lid that fit perfectly. Because you don't have to be exact, and if you need to be a little bigger, cut your squares a little bigger. So if you need a little bigger, cut a 9 by 9 square. Just make everything by the 9. Oh, no, you don't have them all traced? Oh, good. Then you can keep up with me then. Okay, so now that I said all that, I'll just repeat it all. Now, the reason I have one black dot on here is because I made 8 circles, but I decided that 7 was better. Otherwise, his mouth went up. I didn't want it to look that way. And you know the rule. The rule is odd numbers. And I know you can't do odd numbers. He's got 2 eyes. I'm not going to give him a 3rd eye. I know Christine will ask that. Odd numbers is better for your eye. So 1, 3, 5. And then once you get to 9, it doesn't matter. Your eyeball doesn't care. Your eyeballs don't care anymore. So I don't know if that's why the 7 looked better, but see, it was too much. It's too much. So I'm sticking that one on my pattern so that I know I didn't use them all. But on the paper, it looked fine. You'll notice on the instructions, it says shapes are already reversed for fusible web applique. So if you were going to do this on your scan and cut, you've got to reverse these back again. And I'll probably take this or something else on one of these Saturdays and do a little scan and cut. So you'll have that in your video file. Okay, so I'm going to set him aside. He's going to go right there. Oh, maybe he's not. Yeah, oh, he's looking at us. Okay. And I'm going to set my little tracer aside, my marking pen aside. Here's one of my 8x8 fabrics. I'm going to put that with however I'm marking my circle and put that aside. And before we start with anything else, don't forget you got batting. So I'm going to set that out of the way. So I want to address, you have one piece of fabric that's, oh, my little page went to sleep. Hold on. So the front fabric is 8x8, along with your batting is 8x8. If you want to make a bigger circle, just make it 9x9 or 10x10, whatever you want to do. And then when you do this piece, so you have a second piece that's 8x8. So if you do 9x9 or 10x10, make this the same size. This one is 4.5x8. So the only thing you really have to do with this is if you made it 9 or 10, just make it wider, but you can still do the 4.5 or 5 if you want to. Hi, Lynn. So the first thing we're going to do, because we're making the back, and this is your option. This one, I didn't stitch. There's no stitching here. And there's no stitching down underneath. So I'm going to do this one and stitch it because I want to see, and I'm pretty sure the stitching line is going to show here. Obviously it's going to show here, but I think this one might show through. But I'll do one just so you can see it, and we'll kind of hold it up to see. I know some people like to have things stitched. It isn't going to come undone or flip up because it's stitched on the sides. It's stitched down on the sides. So we just want to make sure I got the right side. We just want to take and, roughly let it make an inch hem. So you're folding to the wrong side. And I will tell you, you see how I got these threads? If I left those in there and then sewed them in, yes, they would show through. It's white. You also notice that my batting is white. So instead of using, oh look, I just threw those threads right over there. Hold on. So instead of warm and natural, which is natural, so it's off-white beigey, this is I think it's called warm and white. And I keep warm and white around because I prefer, my preference is white backgrounds on my quilts and projects. So I always keep some warm and white. I honestly can't remember if it's more money or not. Just use your coupon. So now I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm just going to fold it down. I want to make sure it's wrong sides together on the fold, just like you would do if you were doing a hem. Okay, I'm going to move all my stuff out of the way. And for anyone just joining in, when I do my applique stitching, I'm going to use my candle wicking foot. There's a clear one that's called the Applique open toe applique. The regular open toe is for free motion quilting. It wouldn't be the same thing. So I believe it's called open toe applique. This one is a candle wicking, but you can see it's all open here in the middle where the needle goes. I think on Janome, it's the F, there's an F and an F2, or F1 and an F2. Tried to pull that out of the back of my brain. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch these, and I want to stitch it from the wrong side because I don't want to, I want to be able to see that I'm stitching along this edge. Got to pull the petal out from underneath. And I'm just going to do a regular straight stitch. And I'm standing up, so I got one hand. I'm standing up and have one foot up with the pedal. So I had my other sewing hand was busy making sure I didn't tip over. Okay. And of course, after we stitch, we press again, even though we had already pressed. And let's just check. So let's see. This one would be down this way. No, I'm going to do it this way. Well, I want to just see if it shows through. This one would be here. So, no, it doesn't really show much. So it may be okay. And again, that's your personal preference. The first one I didn't do the stitching. Okay, so we can go ahead and set these aside. Okay. And we can set our batting up here for now. And we need a pencil. Okay, so when I trace these, so Christine is asking, can she use white felt because she doesn't have any white batting? Felt shrinks more. So, Christine, you should wash the felt first, especially if you're going to wash that a lot, because the felt can shrink. Oh no, felt. I'm sorry. I was thinking of is it felt? Flannel. I was thinking of flannel. I'm sorry, Christine. So felt, yeah, you could. If you had felt, you could just use that for the back. Depends on the thickness of the felt, to be honest with you. But with felt, you just got to be careful if you plan on washing it. If it's just going to be a little decoration on, hanging around or hanging up, you could make that a pot holder too. That'd be cool. Okay, Christine wants to know measurements for what you are sewing. I'm not sure what that means, but we have one one square, front square, 8 by 8, back square, 8 by 8, a second back square, 8 by 4.5. You're turning in those two pieces that we did, an inch over, so on the little one, it's on the long side. An inch over, stitch it or don't stitch it on both of them. Okay? And your batting is 8 by 8 as well. And if you forget, it's on the Miss Loreens Schoolhouse Facebook post for yesterday. Or you can write it right on your paper. So when I'm looking at these, I know my circles here are going to be all black, and I know my eyes are going to be black. So I want to put them closer together because I want to squeeze them onto this fabric without having to cut too much out ahead of time. We'll see how that works out. So I have my steamer seam, and I only use steamer seam light 2. I think is what it's called. You can use whatever you like. I just have the best luck with it. So let me see if I can scoot in a little more. I know if I come in too much, then I'm not in the camera anymore. I want to make sure my grid side, see the grid? Because it says paper on both sides. I want to make sure my grid side is what I'm tracing on. And what I'm going to do is I'll trace them and then you'll see them. Now, this is coal eyes, right? So we don't need to be all perfect with our circle. So instead of being further apart like they are, I'm putting them closer together to fit on my piece of fabric. And then I'm going to, my black is getting limited. I gotta get some more black. Sorry, I'm wrestling with my steam seam over on my right-hand side. Yeah. Let me go back because I can't stay in the picture. So now you can see I'm halfway under my computer. That black dot's throwing me off. So I'm not being real careful. I'm just getting, and I can get, all the circles are the same, so you can use the same ones. You can use the same one, is what I was trying to say. So keep this in mind. So see, I just kind of grouped them together. Because I'm not cutting out every single circle. I'm not cutting out every single circle separately until I get fabric on there to cut it out. I'm not cutting it out twice. And you'll see what I mean. And I just have to do the carrot nose. Now, the reason why you don't have to be extra careful on the circle when you draw it, because when you cut it, you can make it a little more perfect if you want to. Okay, so we're all done already with our drawing. And so, see how little steamer seam we use? And I'm just going to trim some of this off. See how little steamer seam we use? So make sure you hang on to those small pieces. I put mine in a Ziploc bag. Because there's nothing to me more annoying than having to, you have one little thing to do and you got to go into one of your big pieces of steamer seam. Or at least to me that is. Okay, so back of my fabric, generally on a solid, there's no right and wrong side. You just have to look at and pick the side you like. So I'm going to peel off my paper that's on the back, and as I peel it off, I want to feel and make sure that the sticky stayed on the side where my drawing is. Sometimes it wants to go the other way. You just have to pull it over. And see, that fit on my little, that fits on my little piece of fabric. I would probably save this because you know how sometimes you have eyeballs and stuff. So on black, I save it pretty small. And I've got a solid here. If I had an orange print, I would have used it. So if you have an orange print and you think you should have a solid, I would prefer the orange print myself. Okay? So now you're going to have your bigger iron out. And you're going to have your applique pressing sheet, which I have to go over my camera to get mine. And you're going to put your applique pressing sheet down. I want you to look at your iron. Oh, mine needs to be cleaned. I want you to look at your iron and to see where there's holes or there's indents or anything. Well, those places aren't really going to help fuse this glue. So you want to be aware of that. So if you have a bunch up here that's, you know, you got the indents and the steam holes and all that, just remember that isn't going to give you that full coverage that a spot like this is. It's better to use, hold on, I'm rolling over my iron board. Okay. It's better to use your bigger iron because it's heavier, and that heaviness will help you out. Okay? And we're pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And if it's a bigger piece, you'd keep moving around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I'm going to do this to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's not 1001 and it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Okay? The reason that you want to make sure that you hold it long enough is you want that glue to melt in. If you find when you're stitching and you got a lot of gunk on your needle, you didn't iron this enough. Now you will get a little gunk, but you shouldn't get a lot of gunk. And you guys know what the gunk looks like. It's, you know, sticky, and then it sticks to the thread, and the thread doesn't stitch, and all that stuff. Okay? So when I cut mine out, because I used to go, okay, do I cut on the line, inside the line? I go outside the line, just outside it. I'd rather have something be a little bigger than a little smaller. And also, it's a carrot. Don't cut it straight. Have you ever seen a straight carrot? No, well, I haven't. And if you're making your mat bigger, then trace outside of the pattern bigger. Just follow the same shape. So when I do these, okay, I'll try to stay in the, I don't know if it's because I'm, you know, anal or if this really helps, but I go around and I'm going to circle around the whole outside. And you notice I'm moving my fabric, not my scissors. And I'm in here in my scissors, not up here. If I'm up here, I'm going to cut. It's going to look like the weed whacker got it. And I just go around the outside. And remember, this is coal, not meant to be perfect circles. You could use buttons here, but if you use buttons here, you're not going to place a cup on there. So it depends what you're doing with it. If it's a little decoration, you're going to hang it, or or whatever. You could use buttons. I'm sorry if I didn't. It's hard to watch the camera and cut. I guess I mainly do it this way because now I can get rid of that big fabric when I'm cutting the little pieces. Was that fuzzy? Did I just notice that being fuzzy? So now I can just go around. And again, can you see how, well, there we go. You see how I didn't quite follow the line? It's okay. It's all right. How many did I do? 6, 7, okay. Thought I did the 8 again. Sometimes while I'm actually cutting out, I go, oh, you know, that's a little small. And I just cut outside the line a little more. So is everybody cutting away? It's awful quiet. I could put that music on for a minute. So we can talk about applique stitches. You could use a zigzag. I used a zigzag on these little pieces because it was easier. You can use a zigzag if your machine is a basic machine and doesn't, just has utility stitches. You could use the blind hem stitch. On a lot of machines, you have the buttonhole stitch, and I'll show you the different ones when we get to that point. Okay, so I'm going to save this because there's another nose right there. And get rid of the rest. Oops, sorry, wrong way. Close your eyes. Going on a ride. There we go. Okay, so I have my pieces. And I'm going to just leave them right on my cutting mat. I mean my pressing mat. You knew what I meant, right? And the next thing I want to do is I want to quilt this. So I got my batting. My fabric is right side up. You know what, may be easier, hold on one second, may be easier to do your tracing without the batting underneath. So I'm trying to decide. No, let's just quilt. We'll just get our quilting done because I don't want your eyeball to be thrown off. So let me back up a tad. Oh, back up. There we go. So I'm going to do mine every 2 inches. Now, if you have your walking foot, you go ahead and put your walking foot on. I didn't for this little project, but my machine, my machine feeds fairly well, especially on a project like this. But I know some people, if you have your walking foot and then you have your the guide, can't think of the name of that, but the guide that comes off your walking foot, you can use that. I don't because I tend to hit the thing and it moves around. So I'm just going to mark it. And then I'm going to move over. So I went down the middle. So if you look at your ruler, you can put the 45 along here and come straight down. Or I just went corner to corner. And if my fabric's not square, it's okay. It doesn't matter if my diamonds or whatever, my cross quilting is going to be, you know, a perfect diamond or whatever the case may be. So, you know, we got to let some of that perfection go. Not your prom dress. Just going to flip it around so you see my marks. Going to come back on the 2-inch again. And I'm going to go in the other direction. And I can go in the other direction if I want to be more careful lining up to these lines by lining up my ruler with the lines I just drew. So here's the lines I drew. My ruler lines up with those. Okay? That will give you crosshatch more of a an even crosshatch. And remember, if you're using a friction pen, you make sure you test it on your fabric before you use it. If you're using a batik, I wouldn't use a friction pen, I'd use chalk. Or the disappearing pen. Maybe sometime I'll try to remember to show you a tool that you can use that marks without a pen. Okay, so we're done marking. We got that? Trying to make sure I don't set anything down that flips my little eyeballs up in the air. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down, then we're going to go up, up, down, down. So let's switch over to the other camera. Or you know what, let me get it set first because I have it on the screen. That way you won't get too dizzy. Okay, that should do it. Okay, so I'm going to start with the center one, and I'm going to stitch down. I'm going to put my stitch length on 3.0. Okay, and pardon me, I have to stand up for this part. I can't get my chair close to the machine because the tripod's there. I didn't want you to think that I actually had to stand up to sew. Okay, I don't need to lock at the beginning and the end. Now I'm going to turn it all the way around, and I want to stitch on either side of that line that I just stitched, one side at a time. So that just means, let me back up a little bit. Oops, sorry. That just means that now I've come down this side. I'm just going to come back up to the top on the other side. And I'm quilting with just plain old sewing thread. Now I'm going to turn it around and go back up in the other direction on my 2 outside lines, one at a time. Oh, got all my arm there. Now we're going to go, so we've done this direction. Now we've got to go this way. So I'm going to start in the middle again. And if you're not right on your line, it's okay because the lines are going to disappear. And about all you're seeing is my hands. We've got to turn it around because we're going to stitch back the other way. I'll try to keep my right hand out of your way. And you know, fast stitching doesn't make better stitching. I'm going to pull it forward and go over to the other side of that middle line. Okay? Then I'm going to turn it around and I got my two ends to do. Oh, I just needed to switch to the other side. Now before I walk away from this area, I just want to check to make sure I did everything, and if I turn it over, I can see that everything is done. So back to the work table. Okay, so here we are, and see if I turn it over, I can see that I didn't miss anything. And I'm going to take my pieces, put them down there. And I just want to, because it makes me feel better, to iron out the marking pen. So see, whether you were straight on the line or not, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Okay, so I just got to wait for this to cool for a second. So let me see, because I'm going to use my marking pen that goes away with heat. So if this is hot, it's not going to work. And let me just check to see if anybody has any questions. Have a sip of my tea. Tea break time. There's nothing like tea at just the right temperature. Okay, so I don't want to place my pieces on because I don't know where they're going to go. I can't tell from my square where my circle is. So we want to draw a circle on. And I'm just centering this in the middle. If you're going to make a few of these and you don't have a circle that comes out right, you know, I checked all my plates and that didn't work, and I happened to see this old crusty thing, and that doesn't sound good, does it? And it worked. So it was a lid. Instead of looking for a plate, I found a lid. But if you don't have something that's the right size, cut out the pattern, and I would trace it onto a piece of, like I said, a cereal box or something a little heavier, and then keep it to use for your tracing if you're going to do more than one. Oh, I'm going to take this off because having something squishy doesn't help. So I'm just trying to line up. I need to make sure I've got at least 1/4 inch on each side. Let me move up here, because I got to have some seam allowance. Eventually, we'll be stitching on this line. Okay, so there's my circle. And set that aside. Now I'm going to put my pressing mat back because I'm going to lay my pieces out and press, and if I have to lift it up and bring it somewhere, it doesn't always work out well. The big thing you want to do is, the very first thing I want you to always do is take all your paper off. Just stick things on wherever. But I want you to take the time to take your paper off. And here's why. If you press this at this point, and the paper's on it, for some reason, the glue sticks onto the paper and you have to trace them off again. It's the only time with steam machine when you press that you can press and lose your glue. If you're using another brand, and I can't remember the name offhand, but it's a popular one, you have to be careful because you can press the glue off. So when I counted the 20, that's for steam machine. I can't, heat and bond is the other one. Heat and bond, there may be others. You really need to look at the instructions, the manufacturer's recommended instructions. I find so many people in my classes put their pieces down with the paper on it to see how they want them. Well, then you got to lift them back up, take all the paper off. So just take the paper off to start with. And I'm just sticking them on for some place to stick them. Now, normally, if I was sewing by myself without you guys, I wouldn't have even cut these out until I had this quilted. And that way I could put them right on to here instead of how I did where I could lose one. Because I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, look, 6. I've lost one already. Oh, but I got one from the other one, don't I? Now, how is that? I didn't move 2 inches. Oh, there it is. But I still had the one that was on my paper. But you see how easy it is to lose these little pieces? So don't do your close cutting until you're ready to stick them down. Just make it easier for yourself. And then I got to decide, and you got to decide on yours. Let's see, I already have one going this way. So maybe I'll just make him. You notice he's a him. Well, he is a snowman, isn't he? And you can decide where your eyes go, how close together they are. You know, how you place the smile and how you place the nose and so forth gives you the personality of your snowman. And remember, he's just a snowman. He's not going to be on your prom dress. These don't have to be perfectly spaced. Don't get out the, the slide rule, X-Acto, abacus, and all, Just have fun with it. Okay. No pressing until everything is where you want it. Okay? So here's mine. I just threw my paper away. So let's see. He's a little different from this guy. So is he, or did he end up being the same? No, he's a little different. And even his nose cut out a little different. So that way you can make, you can make a dozen of these and they could all have different faces. You could make a face with this one, make a couple of bigger ones, and make a whole snowman. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and put your applique pressing sheet down, your big iron, and we're going to be counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm pushing down. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And then I'm going to come over because I want to make sure I got that edge. So look, if you have your big iron and it takes away the circle, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Try to leave a little of it, but if you don't, it's okay. 7, 8, 9, 10. Someone counting for me? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. Remember, when you start stitching and you get a lot of gunk glue on your needle, you didn't press enough. Okay? And look, my circles aren't all the same. If I had perfect circles here, to me it wouldn't look right. Unless it was buttons, it wouldn't look right. Okay, now, I'm going to do this a different way than I did the first one. And I'm doing it that way so that you can see the difference. So this one, I did all the applique before I put the back on. Now, this opening is here. That is only to turn it right side out, because we would never want to have to leave an opening on a circle and try to match that up by hand sewing and get it folded right on and all that. Just, forget that. And you could have this further down. You could have it halfway. I just put it up here because it's less noticeable. So this one, I did my applique before I put it together. On this one, I had to stop and think for a minute. On this one, I'm going to applique it after I put it together. It isn't necessarily something I would do on this particular item. Maybe we should wait. I'm trying to decide what should wait till another time. Sometimes when you're doing an applique project, your applique stitching can become your quilting. So say you didn't have this crosshairs. Say you didn't have the crosshairs yet. And obviously it was a bigger project, table run or whatever, like something like that, not a whole quilt. You could do your applique stitching after you get it all put together and turned right side out and so forth. And then your stitching of whatever is here would be on the back as an outline. So I thought I would just do it that way, just so you could see it. My hesitation was, if I needed to, and I didn't need to, I have white thread in my bobbin because my white is background. If I needed to, because the white was showing on the black, I would have to put black in my bobbin. So if I put black in my bobbin, I might not necessarily want it to show on the back, or I might prefer to put black in my bobbin because I want it to show in the back. There's so much that you can just decide whatever you want to do, and however you want to do it. You don't have to do it the same way every time. So which way shall we do it? Should we do it just the regular way? Let's see. Yeah, let's just do it, because this probably wouldn't be a project that you would want the quilting to show on the back. If I was doing a big house and a tree and it was on a bigger area, and to have a house maybe in one color and a tree in another color, well, that a lot of times that's kind of cool. But I think in this case, we'll just applique. I can't decide. No, you know what? I'll do it the way so you can see how it looks on the back. I'll stick with my original plan. So you're going to either applique this way, or you're going to wait and applique not the way I'm going to do it now. That's an odd way to say it, isn't it? You're going to do your applique before you put your back on. I'm going to put the back on, and that way also, if you already know how to applique and you don't want to watch anymore, that's fine too. So what I want to remember is right sides together. Whichever fabric I put down first will be the one that will show when I turn it right side out. For example, I put the smaller one on first and then the bigger one. When I turn this right side out, it will look like this. Okay? If I put the bigger one down first, and it doesn't matter if you put which side you put it on, it doesn't matter. And then I put the little one down, it will look like this one is. So if if this guy was on the outside, it's down here. Okay, I put it up, I put it the long one on, the big one on first, so that I just had that little bit up there. And if that bothers you to be open, put some little steamer seam in there and close it up. Okay, so I want the big one down first, and then the small one. And I want to make sure that that ends up covering the 8x8 of my top fabric. Now, I can see my circle through here, but not really well. So I'm going to take my circle template, and I'm going to put it down. Pardon my head for a minute. I'm going to put it down right where that line is that I can see underneath. And I'm going to draw it again. I want to hold my fabric when I pick this up, because I don't want my fabric to shift. I didn't put my pins in first because the pins would rock my template that I'm using. It's never good to pin on your pressing mat, because then you pin that in. And I'm just going to keep picking up my needles. I'm just going to pin, let me get this out of the way. I'm just going to pin in a couple of places. I don't see the need to spray it, but you could if you wanted to. And make sure your right sides are facing down. And you notice my pins are not in my sewing area. Okay, so that's enough pins. And we're going to stitch on the circle. And the reason I don't cut it out ahead is I don't want to have just a little thin piece of fabric that's the seam allowance left when I'm trying to stitch around. To me, you're just asking for trouble. So just leave it like this. We'll stitch around, then we'll trim. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put my candle wicking foot on so I can see where my line is easily. And let me adjust the camera a little better for you if I can. And I'll do that before we switch over. I want to do a setup with the cameras overhead, but I haven't found a good place for it to be like directly, like facing down this way. So we're working on it. Is everybody good so far? So if someone want to check in and let me know that you're with me? So I'm on a regular straight stitch. I still have my sewing thread in. I'm not changing my normal stitch length. Okay, I can see that we're not frozen today. And it doesn't matter where I start, but I don't want to start. I don't want to start like right near where this is flipping up. So I can be at the top, I can be at the bottom. Doesn't matter where, because we're going to come all the way around and come over it. Oh, Christine, you're tracing? That sounds to me, Christine, like you're trying too much to make perfect circles. Let it go. If I was there, I'd take your pencil away from you. Okay, so let's switch over. And let me see, I think I can tone down the light of my machine. Oh, wrong way. Oh. Okay, that wasn't helpful. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Here we go. First I did my, there we go. First I did my volume, then I did my actual screen. Now, that probably is a little better than that glare that you had before. Okay, and we're just going to take our time, so I'm just adjusting my speed control. And can you see how we're just going right around? If I'm not perfectly on my line, it's okay. Stop every now and again. If you don't have pivot, stop every now and again, lift your foot a little bit just to let the fabric relax. See if I can get it to focus on not my hand. And I'm going to make sure I'm holding, this is, see how it's a little flipping up? I'm just going to hold on to that. I'm way off my line. I'm coming around to where this one's going to flip back on me, so I want to make sure I'm careful. Take my time. If you need to stop a couple times and lift your foot, go ahead and do that. And then I just want to make sure I come over my other stitching a little bit before I lock it. Okay, so we'll go back to the work table. Oh, that's a good idea. So Persis said she used her laser on her machine, and on the Solaris you can shorten the laser line, how much it throws out onto the fabric, and she just shortened it. That's perfect. That's perfect. We did a little laser work, in case anybody's interested, we did a little laser work last Thursday night in the Gemini. I believe that's where we did it. And I showed the screen and so forth to, you got that laser, use it. Sometimes we go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, so pins out. So isn't it nice that we could stitch all the way around? Can you imagine if we had to leave an opening and get that fold just right with that curve? Yeah, not for me. Oh, hi everyone. If you have pinking shears, oh, these are too heavy. If you have pinking shears, now's a good time to use them. I have my little crank pinker. I think I showed you that one day, but I would lose control on this one. I have to figure out how to clamp it. So I'm just going to come in, and if I cut about 1/8 of an inch away, and let me show you what that looks like. Bless you, Caspian. Okay, if I cut 1/8 of an inch away, I don't have to go tick, 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 tick all the way around. You know how when you're doing a circle and you cut in? Well, I don't need to do that if I go about 1/8 of an inch. But take your time and be careful. And you notice I'm moving my fabric. I've got my fabric way into my scissors, not out here. I'm not trimming the hedges. And I got my fingers right here. Not where I can cut them, they're inside the line, but I need something to hold that fabric up. And yep, I'm scrunching up the snowman's head. Did I call him Santa earlier? I almost called him Santa just then. Little heavy getting through where the seam, the hems are. That's okay. So you can see it's about 1/8 of an inch. Now look, see, can you see? Look, there's my drawn line, and my stitch line is, you know, away from it. Let's see if I can show you another. There, right here. See, there's my drawn line, and can you see my stitch line is a little different? It's okay. All right, nobody's ever going to know. I won't tell if you won't tell. I know, it's annoying I have to put things away, I understand. Okay, so we're going to give it a little press, which first of all gets rid of those lines. Now you can go, oh look, I sewed that perfect. Sorry, my computer behind me went to sleep. Okay, and now I'm going to turn this one over first by itself. And the reason I'm going to do that, I learned from the first one, is because if I turn the big one first, I can't get in. That's a glary light, isn't it? Let's see. Is that a little better? It's probably because of the white. But I couldn't get in under here to push that out because I had to do like this and then get down under. So if I turn the short part first, then I can get up to the top and push that seam out better. Does that make sense? And if you see your pen, don't worry about it. We'll get rid of it. That's the pen from when we drew. Can you see a little? Can you see it right there? That's just the pen from when we drew the first time around. So you want to get this nice and as nice as you can. Our sewing is not going to be perfect. And then I'll reach in. Well, make sure you get all those threads too, because they'll show through with the white. It's like a manhandle in it. Okay, I know I could have done that a little nicer. You don't want to have a tool that's real pointy on the end. Like this one's a little too pointy. So you see how this one's curved, or it's curved here? They make a wooden one that's probably about this long, and it's curved here, and then it comes in more to a point like this is, but it's about that long. Oh, see, I stopped to, oh, for crying out loud. I stopped to tell you that and didn't finish going around. Now, as I said before, this isn't probably a project that you would do your applique stitching after you turned it, because once you do the applique stitching, you can't fuss around with getting it right because it'll be stitched in place. But get it about it. This would make a great pot holder. And of course, we're going to give it a press. I can feel my fabric was folded inside. And your circle probably isn't going to be perfect. It's okay. It's a snowman. Especially press around those edges because that's where the thickness is. Now, if you didn't want to stitch it at all, you wouldn't have to do that either. but we're gonna, because I want to show you how I did this stitching, and then show you how I did this one. I was just starting to think I'd have to use a different color so you can see it. That's all right, I'll do that. Okay, candle wicking foot is on. Okay, so you're not put together yet. Well, not you, your snowman is not put together yet. So you would be doing your applique stitching before you put the back on. Okay, in this case, that's what I would recommend. Are we ready to applique? Any questions yet? So if you did this as a pot holder, you'd have to have a little loop. And if you go back, maybe 2 months ago now, I did a whole bunch of pot holders with the little loops on them. You would do the exact same, you would put them together the exact same way, because you want some Insulbright in here. Okay, so let's move over to the, I'm going to move my camera first, so I don't make you too dizzy. There we go. So you can see my screen. Here we go. There we are. Okay. Baby lock brother. I use a baby lock. This is the Solaris. The Solaris has its tabs. Oh, let me find something to point with it. The Solaris has its tabs right here for sewing. The Destiny and Alyssimo, oh, that wasn't nice. The Destiny Alyssimo brother equivalent, your tabs are down along this side. If you have Aventura, Soprano, on your lid will show your stitches, and then you can go in and find the one that you need. So I'm going to show you first the applique stitch I use, and then I'm going to tell you that it's not on every machine, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to show you other options. I go to my quilting tab, and I'm going to use Q12. And what that does is it, so when I say stitch, I mean the long line. When I say bite, that means it's coming over to the left or right, depending which way you're stitching. On this stitch, this is the quilting applique stitch. It's going to go stitch, stitch, bite, stitch, stitch, bite. Okay? Now, if I go to Q14, that is the blanket stitch. And I sometimes say buttonhole stitch. It's either one. The blanket stitch. And that does, I think it goes forward, back, forward, stitch, bite, and back. Forward, back, forward, stitch, bite, and back. I'm digging around for a piece of fabric. So I've got, let me change my thread color, and I will do a little sample of each one. And you should be doing the same, and keeping that in your stitch resource book. And you're saying, I don't have a stitch resource book. All right, well, we'll have to start making one. Before you start appliquing, you want to do a little sample, because depending what you're doing, what stitch you want, what length you want, what width you want, what thread you might want. Okay, so I'm going to just leave the screen there rather than flip you back and forth and make you nauseous. And let me just get a piece of fabric here without cutting my snowman's head off. No, he only has a head, doesn't he? And this is going to be the blanket stitch. And I'm going to stitch a little faster than I normally would, just so you're not sitting there. Okay, and I'm going to switch to Q12 beside it. And you know, I did that stitch and talked to you, and I didn't pay any attention to how it was stitching. So I'm going to do a little, I'm just going to do a little area again. So it's going to go, oh, probably help if I change to the right stitch. And I made sure I lifted my needle up before I changed stitch. Okay, so it goes forward, back, forward, bite, forward, back, forward, bite. So, oh, let me put the light back on. Hold on. There we go. Can you see that all right? So this is the blanket stitch. This is the applique stitch. And you see how it's a lot thinner. So now, I can make this one longer. So let me make it, how about we go longer? And I'm going to exaggerate the length. And I'm just going to make it longer, not wider. And these are the things that you need to do when you're doing your stitching. And then I'm going to go ahead and make it shorter. So I made it a length of 4, and let's go width of 2.5, and see if you can see the difference. Okay. Okay. So here's its natural form, blanket stitch. Here I made it longer. And here, can you see it's a little narrower here? So it looks more like this one, but it has that double stitch on the outside, and that's why I preferred the other one. You could use a, what do they call it? Blind hem stitch that just has a bit of a V to it. So, let's switch over here. Zoom in, see if I can move in. Oh, sorry. I'm going to see if I can come in a little closer, so hold on for a second. Close your eyes if you need to. Okay. So does that show the stitches better? The original, this is the blanket stitch. This is the applique stitch. This is this first stitch, the blanket stitch, with a 4.0 length, I believe it was. And then here, I made it a 2.0 width. So it has the same width as that. Okay, so, and it depends what you're doing. Sometimes I use this one. Depends how much I want it to show. So I'll go ahead and use this one so that you can see the difference. Here I use the applique stitch that I generally use, the Q12. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it on Q4. I'm going to make the width 2.5. I'm not going to change my length because I don't, this isn't a very big shape. And I'm going to start, I don't want to start out on an end, though I could, but I'm going to come in a little ways. Trying to decide, where should I come into? I'm going to come into here, right here. So I'm going to put my foot down, and I want to make sure where my needle's going to go. And I can use, let's see if you can see it. Okay, so I'm using my projector. So can you see? It's projecting, wait a minute, hold on, let's see if I can. It's projecting the stitches down onto my fabric. I don't think you can see it. Hold on. All right, hold on, the little guy doesn't want to adjust on me here. Let's go through this. Yeah, I can't get the camera to adjust, sorry. But for those of you that have a projector, you can also project your stitch on to see how it's going to look. See if you can see it from there. Well, sorry about that. So if you do have the projector, go ahead and you can project your stitch on if you want to. And that'll tell you where your needle's going to fall. So let me shut that off. Because for people that have these abilities, we don't want to leave them out because other people don't have the abilities. We need to use what we paid for. And it also might be beneficial for someone to see options that are available because they may be in the market for purchasing a machine, and you don't always know all the things that are available. Okay? So I'm not going to lock my stitch because I'm going to come back around and go over it just a tad. But I want to make sure, and I can't reach my wheel without tipping the camera over, but I normally would turn my wheel and see where my needle is coming down to. But my projector showed me, so I'm okay. But normally I would reach over to my wheel way over on the right side of my machine, turn the wheel so the needle comes down so I know it's coming down. I want it just off the fabric. So the needle kind of, think of it as the needle is rubbing against the orange fabric. And the bite will be on the orange fabric. And if you need to, oh, I forgot what stitch I was doing. If you need to slow your machine down, go ahead. Now, I want to make sure that when I turn this, I'm not on the bite. The needle's not over to the left. It's to the edge of the carrot. Otherwise, it'll come in on an angle. And I have to remember it goes forward, back, forward. So I don't want to go forward, back, turn the fabric, and then the forward someplace else. Or be forward, turn the fabric, and the back is someplace else. So you have to kind of in your head go forward, back, forward, bite, forward, back, forward, bite. Now I'm on more of a straightaway, so I can move along a little faster. And don't try to go too fast. Remember, I was going to say I've been doing this a long time, but I was out past my edge because I forgot I'm sitting on the angle to the carrot, and I want to make sure I keep this smoothed out. And as I get out to the carrot tip, Well, let's see if I can hold this and stitch. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna get my foot where it needs to go. Okay, hopefully that's staying there. I just took a bite. Oh, sorry. I just took a bite. I'm out at the edge. See how I'm at the edge of my fabric, my orange fabric, and so I can turn a little. Sorry, it's hard to hold my hand still. Now, I'm at the very end. Can you see I'm at the end? And I know it's going to do a bite next. So I'm going to turn halfway so it bites into the fabric. I'm trying to, oh, there we go. Oh, you got to be real careful. Now it's going to bite again, but this time, sorry, I'm going to turn it more so it bites into the fabric. And I don't want to keep doing that to you because I know that you can't get the best shot with me holding a whole tripod up. Oh, I stopped and looked to make sure the camera was all right. Now, see how that thread is up there? I want to make sure before I get up around there that I cut that off. And every time I'm going to turn a little bit, I stop. But I always want to make sure I stop with the needle on the side of the applique fabric, not on the bite. Okay, I'm coming around the bend again. And what I'm doing is I'm letting the forward, back, forward go first, and then stop and see if I need to move it before I do the bite. And then I want to make sure I came back over that other part. Okay. So see how I'm off? Can you see it right there? Who cares? You know, you're up at like 200%. You know, normally it's going to be way back somewhere. So here's so here, let me see if I can hold them both up because this camera does the zoom in better. Okay, so I guess I got to zoom back a little bit to get them both in. Here we go. Okay, so there is a big difference. So here's my applique stitch, the Q12, and here is the blanket stitch. So you see how much darker it is along the outside? I kind of like that. So here, there's a little bit of each one. Two totally different looks. Depends which one you want to have. Okay? Now, I'm going to do an eyeball. I'm going to use the orange, but you really should use the black. You could use the orange. We'll just see how it is. And it's kind of a burnt orange that I'm using. And it's an embroidery thread. That looks pretty good, even if I was off a little bit. I'm okay with that. So more stitches plus that darker line. So it almost gives the whole thing a border, which I kind of like with this solid fabric because now this one, doesn't this one look a little more plain? Look, looks like two totally different fabrics almost. So now I'm going to do an eyeball. And I'm just going to set for regular zigzag. So I'm going back to my utility stitches, and I'm picking a zigzag, and I'm going to make the width. I'm going to try that. So let's, oops, sorry, I am banging into the camera. So I'm going to do a little sample. Oh, it's a little zigzag. Now let's see if I make it a length of 1, what I think of that. You know, these sew-alongs, just so if I have, new people watching, these sew-alongs, I'm showing you what I do when I'm working on the same exact project. So I might do so I've got my width is 2, and my length is 1. And if you like it, you write it down on this. You know, if you've got a little patch of what you might like for applique stitches, and write on it. Don't write on it with your heat erase pen. Use a, what is it, the extra fine Sharpie, the Sharpie that has more of a hard point to it. I think it's extra fine. So we're going to try, oh, I don't know. All right, well, we're going to try this one and see how it looks. Oh, I forgot to show you. So there's the back. And it's funny because I can you see the orange through there? It's almost like shadow work. So and I used white stitches, white bobbin, but see how you can see my orange stitches a bit on the edges? And that's normally why you don't use 2 way different colors. So let's do an eyeball. And I've just got to move you over a little bit, I'm sorry. But for the eyeball, and I want to make sure I want to make sure that I've got my fabric poked out around here as much as I can, because once I stitch it, that's the end of that. Okay, so here's something that you need to know. So if we look at this, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but I can see that my needle's a little left, which means it's on the zig instead of the zag. So if I put my needle down at the edge of my black fabric, the right edge of my black fabric, then it's going to go right out into nowhere land. So look for this button. Let me get it. Hold on. Look for this button on your machine. Let me back up. And it's in different places. I think on the Destiny, it might be like right out here. I'm not sure. I know that Aventura has it, I believe. The the Soprano. But it might, you just have to find it. So on the Solaris, or the, XP Luminaire, I'm going to come up to this top that opens everything up. So you see this whole list? On some machines, these buttons will be maybe along here somewhere. You see them? Okay, because see, that's your feed dogs down, your mirror image. But what we're looking for is this one. You see it? It's got the needle, the star, the heart, the star. If I push that, and I heard my machine move, my needle move, when I push that, oops, sorry, I have no place to put the, hold on a second. When I push that button, it brings the stitch I was working on back to its original spot, which would be where you would start your embroidery, at the edge of your foot. So if you were doing a decorative stitch and needles all over the place, when you're done, if you're done and you go to another stitch, it doesn't matter. But if you're done and you're going to stitch again, you want to start with the beginning of the stitch, You look for that button on your machine and you hit that button. And I always hit the button when I finish stitching before I go to the next one, because I'll forget otherwise. Any questions on that? Yeah, Lynn, I agree with you. She's talking about going over the applique stitches. You know, even myself, I applique for a while, and I like applique, machine applique, and I forget about using other stitches. And that's these are a perfect example of, this is a stitch that I wouldn't have used. This is the stitch that I would have. And I'm kind of liking the blanket stitch better. Doesn't he look kind of drab now? Now let's see what happens when we put orange around his coal. And you could do silver some. I'm only going to use orange, and I'm only going to do it around 1 because I have to pick it out. Unless for some reason it looks good, which could happen. It happens on occasion. So we're just going to zigzag around, and we're going to say the same philosophy is we want to zig on and zag off, or zag in, you know, whichever way, zig and zag. So we want part of it on and part of it barely off. So let's see if I can zoom in a little more. And I know it's not going to show you the best stitching, but it might show you how I go around the circle. So again, I would, let's see if I can reach it without knocking the camera down. I would bring my needle down, and I can see that it's not quite right there. I'd bring my needle down so it hits, it's right next to the black fabric. It's just right of the black fabric. And I always think of it as the needle, the bigger part of the needle up here, is rubbing against that black fabric. Okay, let me move this in. I have a tiptoe up because I'm standing and trying to put my foot on the pedal at the same time. This is one-legged sewing. And every machine, except the straight stitch only, but every regular sewing machine has a zigzag stitch. And you notice no matter what, and I'm way off now, no matter what, when I turn, I'm turning when the needle is out off of the applique fabric. On the zigzag, it doesn't matter so much. Oh, I don't want, I was going to say, now I would normally cut this thread. See it right there? But I'm not going to go all the way around and go over it because I'm going to take these stitches out. But I'll go around enough that you can see. Okay. Oh, wrong button. It was my foot, not the button. So that's a little. Oh, that's a little bit. Let's see if I can get it to zoom in. Sorry. I was going the wrong way. There we go. So that's a regular. Oh, there you go. Can you see that? That's a little zigzag stitch. Now, if you don't want that little, like, stitches coming out, just do a straight stitch around. That'll work too. So let me, well, my poor camera's saying, what are you doing to me? Okay, so let's see if this one we can see it. This one doesn't, oh, there we go. So see how it's going to look like a little pokey on, pokey off kind of thing? So you really wouldn't notice that if it was black. But if you don't like that, just do a straight stitch around here. You don't need to go to the, now you can do the buttonhole stitch or whatever you want. That's fine too. But you don't, when you get into things that are small like this, just a little circle around is all you need. because, you know, you could go around it with the blanket stitch, but, you know, God love you. That's all I can say. So you would get this all done, and you already know how to put your back on. There's the back. And can you see how it's darker shaded? Well, for me, I can almost see that orange there. I can see the orange. And see, I can see the black. So you'd have a little face on the back. That'd be kind of cute. And you could have matched your thread in your bobbin. If you're going to match your thread in your bobbin, don't fill the bobbin all the way to the brim. Fill it like a third of the way, a quarter of the way. Don't fill it too little, you'll have issues with it. And if you filled it all the way or you filled it too much, put your bobbin up on your thread spool where your thread goes, and use it that way to stitch off the rest of it rather than throw it away. Okay, so there we have it for today. Let me just wait for a minute, clean up my mess. See if you have any questions. Those scissors are too big for that. Make sure my pen is shut off. Here's our two friends. Even from the distance, you can see the difference in the noses, even from that far away. Oops, sorry. Come on. Stand up there, fella. Stand up and be counted. Again, now they have two different personalities. So let me just wait a minute to see if anybody has any questions or comments. You learned a few extra little tidbits. We always like to throw those in. Make sure you shut off your iron. And in this case, I would do my applique before I put my back on. Even though that's cute, I just feel like that you can't get the fabric out now because it's in place. Something about that, I don't know. But that's just me. So, oh, Christine, you had fun? Hey, Cammie, how you doing? Oh, look, I can make, so if this was plain, I can make a snowman. Because in the winter, you can make a snowman. You're going to start singing now? I know, Cammie, I couldn't help myself. Okay, so let me wait just a second, see if anybody had any questions. I don't think we do. So thank you, everyone, for joining in. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so we can build up a little community. What is it? Is it thumbs up? Hit the thumbs up button if you liked it. And I always say, if you didn't like it, don't hit the thumbs down. Just delete it and move along. We're okay with that. And if you click on the bell, you'll get notified when I either post a video or I come on live. Because there are going to be times in the coming up that I'll come on live, maybe with something shorter, or just because I want someone to talk to. No, just kidding. So thanks again, everyone, for joining in. I'll see you either Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I keep forgetting to put in, or next Saturday. Hold on. Am I working Saturday? February 6th. So it'll be 1:30. It'll be 1:30 next Saturday because I have to work, and not often, but once in a while I might be a little later than that. So I'll put a reminder up on the Facebook post next week. But if you want a little mental reminder of your own, it won't be any sooner than 1:30. So I appreciate you guys hanging in when I have to change the time. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.